Hello, hello. So this message is going to be a little bit political, okay? It's kind of a part two to the message I put out yesterday. So I just want to put that out in the very beginning so that, people are aware. So the big A word, and I've used this word before in past messages, but the big A word that the Lord was giving me last night in regards to these evil ones, these wicked ones. I spoke about this in yesterday's word where there's like the good guys and the bad guys, right? To just put it simply, right? The common denominator with the bad guys is they need to take accountability, okay? That's the big A word, is accountability. So I know some people maybe don't see it this way, but this is how the Lord has continuously showed it to me since 2023. There is a direct correlation between what's happening and unfolding politically and what's happening and unfolding with our adversaries, okay? So say for instance, I've talked in past messages, I'm in Canada, Carney's the PM, Trump's the president of the States. I have adversaries in my little orbit, right? Friends, family members. Well, these are ex-friends, ex-family members, exes that I dated, things like this. These are people that are my adversaries personally. But there's a direct correlation between what's happening in my little neck of the woods and what's happening globally in politics. Okay, now some people may not get that or see that or understand that, but that's the facts, okay? So basically, when you overthrow your adversaries, the bad guys in the government get overthrown too. So kind of how the Lord was showing it to me is that when the good guys take 2 steps forward, the bad guys take 2 steps back. Whether that's in your little neck of the woods, on a minor scale in your little neighborhood, chosen one, and or politically, it's connected, okay? When they take 2 steps forward and the chosen ones take 2 steps back, then not only politically do they advance, but they also advance in your little orbit as well, okay? So on a small scale and a large scale, it is connected. Because going back to yesterday's message, it's very complex and convoluted, like I was saying, right? There's more layers to it than it appears. But basically, there's the bad guys and the good guys, and the bad guys are the bad and the good is the good. It's not like, well, you're a politician and you do that and you do this, and then this is how you know a chosen one. It's literally like, here's the chosen ones / first fruit / body of Christ / righteous ones / Christians, whatever label you want to put on it, and those are considered like the good guys, okay? Then on the opposing team is the wicked ones, the evil ones, the demonic ones, the narcissists, the ones with mental disorders, the deranged ones, right? Those are the bad guys. And so whether you're working at McDonald's, you're a clerk at the grocery store, you're a mailman, or you're a politician, right? Whether you have a small title or a big title, you're not known or you're well known, if you come from the side of wickedness and evil and narcissism and things like that, and then when it even gets into more things like the 7 deadly sins, selfishness, greed, gluttony, jealousy, envy, all that kind of stuff, right? Then that's your side. Just like if whether you walk closely with God or not, if you believe in goodness and mercy and compassion and righteousness and positivity and optimism and things like that, you can even break it down to high vibrational people versus low vibrational people, if you want to, whatever you want to call it. Then if that's you, you're a good guy, okay? But the chosen ones, obviously, if you're a true, genuine chosen one, you're on the good team. You know what I mean? Now, nobody's perfect. Even the chosen ones are human, and the Christians are human, so we're still going to be guilty sometimes of, maybe some jealousy, maybe some gluttony, maybe some greed, maybe some pettiness, some selfishness, right? We're human. But for the most part, you consistently try to take the high road. And for the most part, they continuously try to take the low road. When you go high, they go low. When they go low, you go high. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of how the Lord was showing it to me. So with that said, whether you're viewing this from this political lens or you're viewing it from just in your personal orbit, chosen one, The common denominator that the bad guys all have in common is that they refuse to take accountability for their actions, okay? And I'm going to get into the political lens for a second. With Mark Carney, for instance, there is a lot of ways that he has dropped the ball for Canada, and not just him exclusively, the entire Liberal Party, okay? It is very, 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 very obvious that they and only they have single-handedly completely destroyed Canada, okay? Canada used to be in like the top 3 to 5 countries out of worldwide. We are now like number 10 to 15. We have completely plummeted in every sense of the word. They are literally trying to turn Canada into a third world country, and we're well on our way, especially if allowed to continue, okay? Like I said, agree with it or not, see it or not, they have an evil, corrupt agenda. And I can say this because I've been a Canadian citizen for well over 40 years now, and so I've seen a few things, right? And the Liberal Party came into power, I believe, around-ish 2016-ish, but around there. So it's been about 10 years they've been in power. Before they took over, Stephen Harper was in power, and he was for the Conservative Party, okay? Back then at that time, has the government ever been perfect? No. Has the country ever been perfect? No. Has there been flaws all along? Yes. But at least back then, when the Liberals got voted in and took over, the economy was fairly well balanced. People were buying homes. They were able to go to college and post-secondary and afford it. They were raising well-balanced families on humble means. Everyone could buy a vehicle if their situation allowed, etc., etc. There were always homeless people in food bank lines, but not like there is today, right? And so because of that, people had enough money that they could buy their own groceries and give like $100 worth of groceries to the food bank. And that would happen to a lot of families, so that when someone was on hard times and went to the food bank 10 plus years ago, they were getting lots of handouts and help, right? But because the economy has dried up so much due to the Liberal Party, and we obviously had Trudeau backing it for many years, and then now we have Carney, if I'm honest, Carney has actually made it worse. We are in a worse state today in March 2026 than we were 3 years ago. It's more worse now than it was during COVID, if you can believe it, okay? By a long shot. And so now today people cannot buy homes. Not only can they not buy homes, they can't even rent a home. And again, I know that this is worldwide. I know that this is everywhere. I know that this isn't new. There was poverty and homelessness 20, 30 years ago. I know all that. I'm simply focusing on what's taken place post-COVID, okay? This agenda has been in mind since they took position, all the way back in 2016. Where we are today, they wanted this. Actually, they wanted us worse off come 2026. Their projection in 2016 for 10 years down the road in 2026 was supposed to be worse than it currently is, okay? But like I said in yesterday's message, the reason why we're not there is because the Lord has saved Canadians and Canada as the country many, many times, okay? So this is why I say it's a fine, delicate balance of where the Lord is allowing things to happen in a wicked way, but with measurement, okay? He's tempering it so that it's not too hot, not too cold, so that it's not like they're not allowed to do anything, but they're not allowed to do everything they want. And the Lord is allowing them to do what they're doing thus far to a point, because what it is in effect doing is awakening people to the truth. They are awakening to themselves, they are awakening to others, they are awakening to government, and it's having people, just like narcissism. I'm telling y'all, 20, 30 years ago, narcissism was not a thing, okay? Now, of course, there was probably narcissists back then. In fact, I know there was. But it was not as mainstream as it is today, right? It seemed like back then you could date like 10 guys or 10 girls and come across one narcissist. Now today you date 3 guys or girls and all 3 of them are narcissists. It's like you cannot escape it. They're everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And so that even in and of itself was allowed by God. It's a demonic trait. If somebody has narcissistic qualities, I am going to lay my dollar on it that they are ran by demons. Okay, I guarantee you they're not in church every Sunday. And I can also guarantee, even if they are, I can guarantee you they aren't reading the Holy Bible. Okay, because that is proof right there that somebody is demonically driven, is their narcissistic traits, right? And me personally, I've been in narcissistic relationships before where I've been with narcissistic people, and I literally found them to be demonic. Like, there was not a big gap between their narcissistic behavior and being a demon, okay? And I went to Lord about that in the past and said, why, Lord, did you let this happen to me? And then the Lord has spoken to me and said, well, are you going to be a lot more careful now moving forward? And I'm like, yeah. And not only am I more careful moving forward about picking partners, but I'm more careful moving forward about picking jobs, neighbors, family members, situations, friends. You know what I'm saying? Those lessons, as evil and terrible and horrible as they were, there were times they probably wanted things to go way worse for me than they really did. The reason why they were allowed to do what they did to that level is because God allowed it. Because I learned lessons through that experience that taught me things in the moment and also for the future. And it led me towards God, right? You know what I'm saying? Whereas had everything just been roses and butterflies and peachy keen, I never would have learned about myself and how I had unhealed wounds that needed healing all these years. And I never would have learned about other people and their unhealed wounds and how we have a choice if we're going to take the high road or the low road, if we're going to conduct ourselves positively or negatively. I wouldn't have learned those fundamentals, right? I would have stayed ignorant to these things. And I also never would have gotten born again, in the spirit and been reborn in my relationship with the Lord. I would have stayed in the world and been sinning. And who knows where I would be today, right? So I can see in hindsight, I didn't see it at the time, right? Because at the time it was horrible. But today in hindsight, now that I've came this far and I've healed and I look back with what I know now, I see how they meant it for evil, but God meant it for my good. And that it was good that I was afflicted. Like the Bible says, it's good that I was afflicted because it actually helped teach me, right? But we don't see these things at the time. Just like how I spoke in yesterday's message about COVID, was that at the time when we're in the midst of it, it looked really bleak and dismal and very scary, But now in hindsight, now that we've moved past that, years have gone by, we've healed since then, we've moved forward, we look back now and we can see how it was a pre-planned agenda, right? Had they never did that to us, we would have continued being blind little babes in the woods like they wanted us to be and like we were back then, right? So this is why I say these things can hurt in the moment. Trust me, I know, okay? But they serve a higher purpose. And I'm telling you all that as bad as it was, whatever those situations were that you all have been through, they wanted it to be worse. The devil in them wanted the worst possible outcome, whatever that fill in the blank. But God said no. Just like how he had the bargaining going on with the devil over Job, God put limits on what the devil could do, right? But while Job was going through the affliction, it was terrible, right? You see what I mean? But then the story has a good ending because then Job gets back double, and then when he had double, he appreciated. The Bible doesn't go into these details, but you and I both know that Job appreciated what he had even more after the affliction versus before. You know what I'm saying? And it's because he got taught a lesson. Now, was Job punished? It looked that way. But he really wasn't, because Job's story starts out with the story in the first two lines says, no man was more righteous in all of us than Job. And so God is not saying, hey, this guy was terrible, horrible, he deserved this, you know what I mean? He's in wrath. No, it starts out by saying, basically in a roundabout way, that he didn't deserve it. But that God wanted to make an example out of Job for others so that his friends and wife could see the glory of God, and so that Job could see the glory of God and just make him more appreciative of what he had, right? And like I've said before, perhaps Job did have generational curses that he was unaware of. The story doesn't go into the details of Job's life beforehand, right? And we don't know, maybe there were circumstances in his past that led to this lesson learning that needed to take place, right? And so I know with myself, chosen one, and I know for a lot of you that, and a lot of the chosen ones, we were born in under generational curses. And I've made plenty of videos about those in the past, talking about how, and the Bible talks about it too, how the curses of your ancestors can be visited on the third and fourth generation, okay? So you could perhaps be the third or fourth generation. And if you're the fourth, there you go. And if you're the third, then your offspring was going to be the fourth, okay? And so God was actually, in a roundabout way, doing you a favor by using you. Someone has to do it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Someone has to do it. It's just like, I don't think, like, look how perfect Jesus was. He didn't want to go through his crucifixion, but yet he had to do it. You know what I'm saying? If someone as perfect as Jesus can die for yours and my sins and be crucified, then what makes you so special? Right? And so this is the thing, is that when you have to do it, you have to do it. And it was to break it for either yourself, and that's it, and then your next generations are fine, or it was to break it for yourself and also your children, because if it wasn't you, it would have been put on them. Okay? And you had a choice. You didn't necessarily have to do it per se, but you chose to do it anyways, right? You gave God your yes. And so therefore, you know, Jesus knew in advance all the things that were in store for him, right? He knew what was to come, but because he had that gift of insight and stuff. Now, in the past, chosen one, you may not have known everything that was to come to you, right? But it needed to go this way. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you came out from it, you either already have came out from under it a better person, or you're going through it right now and you will come out of it as a better person. That proves that it was from God, because if we go through a tragic circumstance or circumstances sent by the devil, and it's the devil's work, we're going to come out worse. You know what I'm saying? But when we take the high road and we work through it with God, we come out better. So you and me both could go through a tragic circumstance. I have a choice if I'm going to take the high road or the low road, right? And that's what happened with these adversaries. A lot of them went through tragic circumstances like yourself, chosen one, and they opted for the low road. You opted for the high road. And because you opted for the high road, you came out of it better and more grateful and more well-rounded and more high vibrational and things like that, right? They opted for the low road and they came out of it worse. And so this is what divided you all. This is why the Bible talks about weeds versus tares, okay? We all go through bad experiences. Like I said, even Jesus in his time of being human went through bad experiences, and he, like Job, didn't deserve it either. You know what I mean? And so there's many different facets at play in there as to why we go through suffering and we go through hardship and things like that. But it is meant for our overall good in the end, even though it's bad at the time. I've talked to you on the past about how right now there's people talking about war, we can't have war. No, you're terrible, you're horrible. Why are you creating war? War is a part of life. Even the Bible talks about this. There's times for war, there's times for peace, right? Even in the Bible, there were many battles that David fought in. Like, it's supposed to be that way. We can't have a war all the time, but we can't have peace all the time. It's supposed to be, you know, just like we have summer for a while and then we have winter for a while. We can't have summer all the time. We can't have winter all the time, right? You know what I'm saying? And so people don't understand this. And sometimes it sounds like an oxymoron, but war brings peace. Just like how affliction brings goodness. You know what I'm saying? Just like how the Bible talks about crushing the olive brings the oil. Crushing the grape brings the wine. And so this is, you know, going through the labor brings the baby. You see what I'm saying? I could go on and on. So goodness, that's just how life works. And to sit and muss and fuss and fluster about that is ridiculous, to be honest. Like, you know, it just proves a childishness, in my opinion, because it's like, how do you not see? Like, this has to happen. There's birth every day, but there's also death. We can't just have births. We can't just have deaths. If we have just deaths, the world will be desolate. If we have just births, we'll overpopulate. We have to have death and birth, both alike. For every 10 babies born, 10 people have to die. You know what I'm saying? It's just the cycle of life. And so to sit and think that there can never be war, and if someone creates a war, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. Like I said in yesterday's message, war is what stopped Hitler. Could you imagine? So what, everyone was not supposed to create a war and just let him do what he wants because war is terrible, horrible, and awful and evil? But what he was doing was terrible, horrible, awful, and evil. And because a war happened, peace came in the end, right? He was stopped. And so this is the thing, right? So anyways, like I said, chosen one, it all combines together, okay? It all folds in together, right? So with these politicians, and again, I'm not speaking about Trump. Trump is a chosen one, okay? You can fight me on that, not like me on that, that's fine, that's okay. But Trump is a chosen one. He is doing what God is leading him to do. And people are trying to twist it up and say, oh, well, shucks, gee, he's starting wars. He's obviously an evil dictator person. No, the evil dictator person is the person that doesn't start wars, and they put on this facade that they're of peace and they're so wonderful and amazing and they're such a diplomat and da-da-da-da-da, but behind the scenes they're trying to think of really sneaky, evil, covert ways to try to make people sick, to try to make people hungry, to try to bring more crime so people get hurt, and then they throw these rocks and hide their hands. That is sneaky and evil. You know what I mean? Bringing up a war to try to take down dictators so that people in those countries can have a more peaceful way of life in the long run, I would call that being, a good Samaritan is what I would call that. And so, right? So anyways, Trump doesn't need to take accountability because there's nothing that he's doing currently or has done in the past or will do in the future that merits any accountability. And in the event that accountability needs to be taken, he does take it. He makes these speeches, whether people like how he talks or not, and he addresses his part. And he straight up tells you, he says what he says what he thinks, he says what he's gonna do, he says what's wrong, what's good. He speaks his mind, and it's clear. You know what I mean? Whereas with Carney, it's this word salad, and Trudeau was the same way. All the representatives of the Liberal government operate the same way. And again, I know I'm just focusing on the States and Canada because I'm on the North American continent, right? But this goes for other leaders around the world too. There's the good leaders and the bad leaders, the good guys and the bad guys. The leaders that are leading their countries, cities, towns, buildings, places, whatever position, prominent position they have, when they are leading it with accountability and righteousness and honor and integrity and good intentions, then that is considered a good person. Whether they believe in God or not, they follow God or not, that they are on the good guy's side, okay? Those that are instead opting for dictatorship, control, narcissism, whether they're doing it covertly or overtly, meaning in your face or not, personally, I would rather deal with an in-your-face narcissist than a covert narcissist. And yes, I've dealt with both many times. I've dealt with behind-the-scenes narcissists that are sneaky and underhanded and manipulative. And I've also dealt with in-your-face narcissists that, are loud and proud. I've dealt with both. And personally, if given the choice of the two, I would rather choose to deal with the loud and proud narcissist than the hidden one. Because the hidden one, it's more diabolical, in my opinion. And I'm sure you would agree, right? At least with the loud and proud one, you kind of know what you're dealing with and you can move accordingly. With the ones that smile in your face and look cute and act like they're just the best thing ever, and behind the scenes, they're actually very methodical and diabolical and strategic and evil and try to manipulate things. And it's like they're trying to play their own little personal game of chess just to try and screw everybody over but them. I find like those people, in my opinion, are the top of the top for as far as evil goes, right? And that's not just personal opinion. The Lord himself has revealed this to me through my very many experiences of dealing with narcissists. And trust me, I've dealt with many. So I've asked the Lord, why have I had to deal with this, Lord? And he said it was because all those experiences bad as they were, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, were to teach me the lessons that I needed to learn. And believe it or not, you guys, I healed past wounds through those experiences, you know, and I learned things about myself and others, including there were people around me that were supposed friends, supposed family that I loved and thought loved me, and they were treating me badly. And I continued to take their bad treatment and serve them good treatment in return. Like, they would give me crumbs and I'd give them a loaf of bread in exchange. And so they were constantly being well fed, meanwhile I'm starved. And when I literally got down to nothing, skin and bones starved, they laughed and pointed at me and went and told everybody how horrible and terrible I am and ran off laughing. Meanwhile, they're fat and happy off of all the bread I gave them in exchange. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I got in return. And it didn't matter how long I knew these people. It didn't matter how much I did for these people, how well I treated these people, how well I knew these people. This is what they did over and over and over and over and over again, okay? And I know a lot of you chosen ones can relate, right? But I'm here to say, for those of you that have made it through, this is like an affirmation as to it, okay? Confirmation, whatever you want to say. For those of you that are currently going through it, this is what it's for. It does serve a higher purpose. Like I said, the grape and the olive don't like to be crushed, but the good comes out of them in the end, which is oil and wine, right? And that's their purpose, is to provide oil and wine. And this is your purpose, chosen one, is to go through these terrible experiences so that you can either A, break generational curses from your bloodline for those that are going to come after you, including your own children and grandchildren, or B, if not just that, to, you know, finish up what you needed to do here on earth before your D-Day. You know what I'm saying? To heal those wounds you've been packing around in your backpack on your back for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. However long it's been, right? And you didn't know that they were what they were, and you continue to go back to the same people that inflicted these upon you, right? And it was because you all were in this vicious cycle where they were making you feel like you deserved this, or that you owed them something, or they were entitled, or like you got what you deserved, like you earned that somehow, or something like that, right? And so you were in this continuous cycle, and the Lord said, no more of that, okay? And so those people, chosen one, they need to learn accountability. They have not taken accountability for what they've done to you recently, like in the last 1 to 10 years, but they also haven't taken accountability for the things that they did to you in your childhood, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. They have never taken accountability. They have just continued to over and over and over again give this entitled narcissistic behavior to you that makes you feel like you owe them something, or you're obligated to them, which is that Pharaoh Israelite slave driver thing I was talking about yesterday. And then you go ahead and give them your loaf of bread, either because you're empathetic and compassionate and loving and a good person you've always been and you want to help them, or if you don't want to do that, they guilt you or force you or coerce or manipulate you into doing it. And then if you don't do it, then they won't stop, right? They don't take a hint, because they don't know boundaries, so then they'll go manipulate and coerce and brainwash someone else into making you do it for them, so that no matter how you cut the cake, they end up getting what they want. And then you end up with 0, and they end up with 100, and then they give you nothing in return. They take all you have and run away and laugh. And then that's not good enough. They have to go tell everybody and their dog how horrible and awful you are, so that nobody else can come along and fill up the cup that they just took out of. So that you are continuously running on empty, no matter what. And that they can continuously run on full. And they think that this is fine. And so when you've cut them off, which either you're doing now, you will do in the future, or you've already done this, chosen one, in the past, when you cut them off, then now you're terrible, horrible, and awful, and they want to run and tell everybody this. Okay, so it's a lose-lose situation. If you give them what they want, you lose. If you take away what they want and cut them off, you lose. There's no appeasing these people, okay? And it's because they don't think anything's wrong with this. There's definitely something wrong with this. It's evil, it's wicked, and honestly, in a lot of these people, it's a mental disorder. And a lot of them also have addictions as well, which make it all the worse. But yeah, there's definitely something wrong. And so why they're under wrath and judgment is because of not only obviously what they've been doing all this time, but because they refuse to take accountability. And the Lord is telling me, and He's told me this before, that until they take accountability for what they've done, chosen one, and the Lord was showing me this in numerous ways, this looks like really coming to terms, not just saying it either, not just saying to God, I'm sorry, God, or coming to you and saying, I'm sorry, chosen one, and tra-la-la-la-la, and off they go with their life. No, I mean like true, humbling, understanding, cut off at the knees. Like a come to Jesus moment, hallelujah, where they actually put 2 and 2 together. I've told you all since I started this channel, they think 2 plus 2 equals 6. The only way that they're ever going to understand it's 4 is if like they get it, right? They connect the dots. And then really truly computing and understanding that and calculating that, oh gee shucks, it equals 4. I've been wrong this entire time. I've been telling the chosen one wrong information. I've been giving myself wrong information. I've been giving God wrong information. I've been telling other people wrong information. I've had it backwards and upside down this whole entire time. Oh gosh, gee shucks. You know what I mean? Like a full actual realization of themselves and their behavior. And once they come to that moment, some of them it could take days, weeks, months, years. Everybody's different, but once they get to that moment, then they will, that is what the Lord considers as taking accountability, okay? And so this is going to happen internally, like I just explained, but then it also has to happen externally. It's a two-pronged process. There has to be an internal realization and an external actualization, okay? Where they actualize it out. And so they come to this dawning within themselves. The Lord is saying an epiphany, hallelujah, where they have an epiphany internally, and then they also outwardly express that epiphany. It's just like, you're not going to believe someone's really sorry. Like anyone can go up to somebody and say, I'm sorry, but you can tell the difference between sincerity and non-sincerity, right, chosen one, right? You're not going off of the I'm sorry, you're going off of the tone, the eye contact, the expression, the vibe that you get, things like that, right? You can tell when someone's being genuine and sincere, and when they're being disingenuine and insincere. You can tell the difference, right? And so can God. And so they can go tell God they're sorry all they want. Until they really mean it, He's not listening. They can go and tell you and everybody else how sorry they are. Until they really mean it, you and no one else will be listening. God is creating deaf ears on everybody, hallelujah, on Himself, you, and others. You are not buying what any of these people are selling anymore. The whole manipulative, strategic, calculative approach, that's not going to work this time. Why? Because you've went through too much struggle and hardship and tragedy and you've learned too much from your past, that there's no playing tricks anymore. The old game where you get crumbs and they get a loaf, that's not going to happen anymore. And they're starting to realize that. They actually started to realize that a long time ago, chosen one, and what they've been doing for the last 3, 6, 9 months here, this last go round, has been trying to force that to happen. Like I said in yesterday's message, just like with Carney and the government, these narcissists want you to free willingly, voluntarily just give your loaf of bread up in exchange for their crumbs like you used to do. You used to do this voluntarily. You used to drink their Kool-Aid. They want you to do that again. They don't want all this drama, all this trouble, all this frustration and struggle. They just want you to just be their sap, their pansy. That's what they want. But you've been through too much and seen too much and know too much, right? That's hence the beauty of the struggle, that you know exactly what's happening, and you're not going to fall for their tricks, and they're not going to be able to manipulate you, and they're not going to be able to manipulate anyone else outside of you to manipulate you either. You have drawn a very clear line in the sand. Whether they like your boundaries or not, you don't care. Whether they want to follow them or not, you don't care. Whether they hate you or love you, you don't care. They can go slander your name and backtalk you till the cows come home. You don't care. This is the line that you have created. Because once that olive is crushed, it's crushed. Once that grape is crushed, it's crushed. You can't go back. You see what I'm saying? It's already happened. So they're trying to fight something that's impossible. It's like trying to remake a grape that's been crushed. It's not possible. You see what I mean? And so now, instead of just respecting that and having this come to Jesus moment in the past like they coulda, shoulda, woulda, instead they decided and opted, including the government on the big scale and the small scale in your orbit, chosen one, they decided to double down on these efforts. And it's kind of like, well, it's like those narcissistic relationships where it's like, if I can't have you, no one will. Or if you won't be with me and put up with my abuse, then I'm going to go and ruin your name, or I'm going to go and date your best friend or your sister. Like these like little dirty tactics to try to like get one up on you or something, or to teach you a lesson. And it's like, you don't care, right? And so that's what's been unfolding these last few months here, is this second round. And I talked to you all about that. I said, we're going for round 2, right? Remember, if you check out my words consecutively, you would know. But I mentioned that months ago. I said we're up for round 2. And that's what's been happening throughout this round 2, chosen one, is that they're rehashing the old plays, but this time it's different. They want you, like that narcissistic abuser, they just want you to come back willingly to the relationship, give in, and let them go back and resume abusing you like they used to. And you're not going to do that. And they know that you're not going to do that. And so instead of just accepting, hey, I respect you, I accept your boundaries, I accept your decision. No. They want to now force you to come. They are doing this the same way as the narcissist does in that situation, with the stalking, the slandering, the lying, the doing sneaky, underhanded, evil things to try to get your attention and all this stuff. That's what they've been playing out and doing for this last 3, 6, 9 months now, right? And this was all in efforts to force your hand. And if that doesn't work, at least they're making you look and feel bad in the process. That's their like consolation prize or something, right? And you're not falling for it. You're not going back voluntarily, and you're not going back forcefully. You're not dealing with any of this stuff. And none of their little antics have affected you, nor will they. They haven't in the past, they aren't today, and they won't tomorrow, right? And so they know this now. So now they've run out of options, and they can't go further. They want to go further, chosen one, okay? But they can't, because God is tempering it. He's only allowed so much, right? It's just like with Job. The devil wanted to go full tilt, but God put limitations on it. The devil still got a lot of play with Job, but he didn't get to do everything, right? And so that's the same thing, is you've reached completion on this. You've went through all their little antics, and they've gotten to play all their little cards. Everybody's played their part. They played all their cards. They had so many cards, they played them all. You've went through all of the hands, like the rigmarole. You went through it all. Okay, so now what? Right? They want to keep going. They can't. God said no. That's it. It's right. So this is what I'm saying, is like it's reached the end, because all the cards that they got to play on you in the past, they've been played. All the positions and situations you were supposed to go through, you've went through them. For those of you that are just starting, you will go through them and you will come out victorious. For those of you that are done, you'll know what I'm talking about, okay? Because again, everyone's on different timelines. And so now where it's at is they now need to take accountability. It's done. The game is over. You know what I mean? We've played all the hands of Uno, like whatever you want to call it, right? All the cards, they're gone. And so now they need to accept that you won and they lost. And that's that. And just accept it and explain that to themselves, explain that to you, and explain that to others, is that this is the facts. No more of you winning, them losing, and trying to convince themselves that they're the winner, you're the loser, trying to convince you that you're the loser and they're the winner, trying to convince everyone that they're the winner, you're the loser. That's not true. That's not what happened. You guys played the game fair and square and you won, right? You know what I'm saying? If you want to use that metaphor. And so now God is saying it's to the point where these people, again, whether it's on a small scale or a big scale, these narcissists, these demonic people, they now need to take accountability and admit what's really happened here. What part they did, what part you did, what they did, right? They need to admit the truth. And they need to honor you. And so this looks like these narcissistic exes, friends, family members going to God and saying, I get it, God, having a real bona fide epiphany, a real understanding, and or coming to you, because some of them it may just suffice to go to God, right? But others of them, depending, because what I'm hearing, Chosen One, and I've talked about this in past messages, and I'm having problems with my throat all of a sudden. I'm having the confirmation hiccups, trying to take my voice. I rebuke you, Satan, in the mighty name of Jesus. Because you see what I mean? When we get to the heart of the matter, there's a problem. Just a second. I'm going to take it back. What I'm hearing, Chosen One, and I've been saying this all along, is, unfortunately for you, Chosen One, whether you realize this or not, and I know a lot of you do, but again, different timelines, the people that went against you the hardest, that really had the biggest hate on for you, were the ones closest to you. As sad as that is. So yes, there were distant cousins that were involved, but they weren't on the front lines, okay? There were distant friends that were involved, but they weren't on the front lines. The front lines look like the exes that you love the most. These could look like baby moms, baby dads, right? This can look like parents. This can look like grandparents. This can look like siblings. This can look like your own children. This can look like, your first cousins, the ones you grew up with. This can look like the best friends, like the ones that had the closest access to you, or the ones you were the closest with back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking like your A1 day ones. This is your front lines. It's just like with Jesus. The two people that like did him the most dirt was Peter with his denials and Judas with his betrayal. And both Peter and Judas were disciples. These weren't just Jesus's friends, cousins, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncle. No, these were like his top 12, his ride or dies, right? And so this is the same thing with you, Chosen One. Like, a lot of you already know this, but some of you may not. But I'm telling you, if you're looking for your biggest haters, look to those closest to you. You know what I mean? They say we're all separated by 6 degrees of separation, even strangers. Your separation from your top 5 haters is like 1 degree, not 4 or 5 or 6. Okay? And so these people will have to, not only because they did the most and the betrayal was the biggest, they will not only have to have this come to Jesus epiphany and make amends with God, they will also have to make amends with you. Okay? And also the Lord is showing me make amends with others, where they take accountability to God for themselves, to you, and to others, so that all of the facts are put out, right? It's just like going back for a second to the Mark Carney thing. What he's been doing is putting all the blame on Trump. Every single thing Trump does, Carney uses the government in Canada to blow it out of proportion so that everything... So if Trump doesn't go to war, he's a pansy. If he does go to war, he's a dictator, evil warmonger. You know what I'm saying? If he lowers the cost of living, he's a show-off. If he raises the cost of living, he's a jerk. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm just paraphrasing, but like, this is what he's doing. Is it's like he's purposely trying to make it so that whether Trump moves to the right or he moves to the left, he jumps up or he jumps down, he looks terrible. Meanwhile, over here in our neck of the woods, we're completely failing as an economy. So he's literally using Trump as the scapegoat, the catch-all for... It's like he's going and starting this massive fire on the right-hand side, and then starting a little tiny fire on the left-hand side, and while the right-hand fire is burning down major buildings and museums and hospitals, the little left-hand fire is burning down a tree, and he's getting everyone to look at the tree that's on fire and say, look, Trump started a fire, look at that tree, look at that tree. Meanwhile, behind everyone's backs, on the other side, hospitals and schools and museums are burning down. Do you know what I'm saying? That's literally what he's doing. He's trying to put 98% of the focus, the eyes and ears and attention on Trump and the States, even though Trump in the States isn't really doing much in the way of negativity, but he's trying to blow up every single thing. And then meanwhile, over here in Canada, everything's on fire and completely just burning to the ground. And when we're pointing out, what's happening on our own home turf, what's happening over here where we should be more focused on, and hey, can you bring water bombers? Like, we need to put out these big massive fires. He's like, oh no, just let it burn and just continue to keep your eyes focused on that tree. Okay? That's literally what's happening. And so many people in Canada are waking up to this, and unfortunately it had to get this bad for this long, for this amount of people to wake up and see it. Because we're fighting with social media and bots and AI and things like that are using these, modern day technology tools to influence people's sights, sounds, thoughts, things like that, feelings, etc. It's all manipulation, right? So that's what he's doing. And so the Lord is saying that, unfortunately, the Lord may allow things to derail for a little bit longer and even in bigger ways, because it's required and necessary to wake more and more and more and more people up. Just like how you've had to go through that crushing, chosen one, to get your oil, other people have to go through a crushing to get their oil. And some of these people aren't as easily swayed or open-minded or understanding or as emotionally intelligent as you are. They're a little more thick-headed, they're a little more thick-necked, they're a little more stubborn, and they don't get it, right? And again, not every single person is going to get it. They're not. There's going to be some people that just don't see the light, and that's unfortunate for them, and those are the ones we have to pray for, by the way. But there's still a lot more people that are going to have come to Jesus moments. Those that are coming to Jesus because, just like you did in the past, chosen one, or you are currently, where you had to go through traumatic experiences in order to learn fundamental lessons to break generational curses off your bloodline for yourself and or your children or your grandchildren. But they also have unhealed wounds too that causes them to act the way they do. A lot of these celebrities, why they make this like toxic music and these toxic movies and all this toxic filth that comes out of their mouth and the way they dress and things like this, it's unhealed wounds, right? And I didn't used to see it that way in the past when I was in the world, but now that I'm born again, I see it that way. If I see a woman she's barely dressed, I feel like she may have been inappropriately touched at some point in time. Not always is the case, but a lot of the time it's the case. Or if I see a man that is like swearing or trying to like get himself in trouble and things like that, it makes me feel like he may not have had a very well balanced father figure, if even one at all. And 99% of the time I'm right? If you go and talk to that person, their dad abandoned them at a young age, or their mom was a prostitute or an addict, or the dad was, or so, you know what I mean? There's 99% of the time there's discord there. When somebody is raised in a well-functioning environment, they're usually not going to turn down those roads. Again, there's obviously an exception to every rule, but for the most part, right? And so this is the thing, is what I now see, what I used to call cool 10 plus years ago, I now see as unhealed wounds. I see people dealing with trauma, and I talk about that a lot in my messages, like even with the Kingdom Spouse messages, chosen one. If those resonate for you and you're on the same page as me, you'll understand as well, is that a lot of the reasons why these your exes and these narcissistic people and these spouses and stuff were cheating and drinking and drugging and sexing and all this stuff, it's because they had or have unhealed wounds. And you can relate because with a lot of you chosen ones, you've been through some sort of traumatic experiences yourself in childhood. but you've went through what was needed and required to come out on the other side of that, right? And now today you find peace, you find understanding, you find serenity, you find healing, things like that. And this is what some people are going through as I speak. They're in the midst of it. Others of them haven't started yet, but they will be come April, come the spring season, okay? And so there's a lot to unpack in this message. There's a lot here that I'm saying, but for the most part, we go back to the beginning about the accountability thing is that if these people want their judgment and their wrath to start to subside or ease up or dwindle down or come to even a close, they need to take accountability. And I don't just mean surface level accountability where they are trying to appease you or God or whatever. I mean genuine authenticity, right? And you're no fool, chosen one. Nobody can fool you. So if this spouse does go through their process and they're crushing like you did, and they heal from past things like you did, and they break generational curses like you did, and they really sincerely, genuinely want to be back with you, they see the light of day, they know it 2 + 2 doesn't equal 6, it actually equals 4, they see this with clarity, then they're going to have to go to God and make their peace there first and foremost, and get God's approval, and they're not done. Then they have to come and approach you. And they can't come to you in no half-hearted way. You're not going to entertain it. You're going to smell it before it even starts, right? And they know that, and you know that, and God knows that. So they're going to have to come to you 100%, because the days of you accepting 90, 80, 70, 60, 50 are over. And they knew this a long time ago, chosen one. They just thought they could twist your arm, and now they're seeing they can't do it. They can't trick you, they can't force you, they can't manipulate you or anyone else. They can't do it. It's going to have to be 100% genuine authenticity. And you're going to smell right away if it's true or not, right? And if it's not, then you're going to just kick them to the curb. But if it is, then you will accept and go from there, right? You're not going to turn them away when they've made their peace with God and they're trying to make their peace with you and they're being 100% genuine, right? And if you would, then you're not ready yet, right? And that's okay, but you'll know when the time is right, okay? And that's just for the spouse, but that goes for any of these people, you know? And so not all of these people have to necessarily take 110% accountability with you specifically, chosen one, although maybe they may. But they will at least at the bare minimum have to take accountability within themselves. And if they choose not to do that, they choose to try to continue doing these low down dirty tricks, or they continue to not take any accountability for their poor actions in the past, the present, or that they may try to take in the future, then God is going to turn his back on them, and his ears will be deaf, and so will yours, chosen one, and so will other people. They will no longer have an audience. People are no longer going to buy what they sell. And it's already starting to happen. I spoke about this in yesterday's message, is that people are starting to turn away from Carney and the liberal government and what they're trying to do in droves. It used to be a smaller group, now it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. Their words and actions are falling on deaf ears. And if they do have some support, whatever's left is going to dwindle down as the months go by as well. And it's going to be like this, and they're going to be continuing to look more and more like the bad guy that they are, more and more like the laughing stock. They're going to go through more and more struggle. It's going to be like walking through mud or even quicksand to try and get to do what they've been doing in the past. It's just going to get harder and harder and harder until eventually they just buckle and fold, because they can't, you know what I mean? Every olive eventually crushes, no matter how tough it is. Every grape will eventually crush, no matter how tough it is, right? God knows exactly how to break us humans down to where we need to be. I mean, look what he did with Job. You know what I'm saying? And so the other thing too is the Lord was having me come across a video yesterday that was talking about the book in the Bible, Lamentations, right? And Lamentations is all about lamenting. And so that was not a coincidence. It's because God is saying these people, whether you realize it or not, they are lamenting, chosen one. And if they haven't seen anything yet, is what the Lord is saying. Hallelujah. They're going to be lamenting even more as time goes by, because God is just going to, and you know how it goes, chosen one. You've already been through the crushing. You know that God will keep putting the weight on and the weight on and the weight on until eventually your knees buckle, right? And you surrender. That is exactly what he is doing. And everyone's on different timelines. Some of these people are 80% through. Some of them are 10% through. Some of them are 50% through. Some haven't even started yet. Some are almost done, right? Everybody's crushing is different. But they are going through this. And this is why yesterday's message I said God does not sleep or slumber, because it can look a certain way on the surface, but God is rest assuring you, chosen one, that no, he is in fact doing things behind the scenes. Even if they're not in your face, but God also doesn't owe you any explanations either. He doesn't need to come to you and say, yes, trust me, I got this on lock, everything's great. Like, he doesn't need to do that. He knows what he needs to do to make everything work out in the wash. You know what I'm trying to say? He knows what he needs to do to make things in the future go right for you, where all the misaligned situations go straight. But then he also knows what to do to make everyone else's misaligned situations go straight too. Do you know what I'm saying? He knows best as to how to strategically coordinate things with so-and-so to strategically coordinate things for you that will strategically coordinate things for someone else. Do you know what I mean? He knows how to stack the game, so to speak. And so if he's busy doing other things to try to bring accountability to these evil ones and to bring wrath on them and to bring them to their knees, he's not going to have all the time and availability to just sit and make you know what he's doing every second of the day. Do you know what I mean? He's preoccupied with something else. But like I said, just like how we see today in 2026, looking back what happened 5 years ago with COVID, 5 years from now in 2030, 2031, you're going to look back at 2026 and see how God was moving. Sometimes we see things, clearer in the future when we look back than we do in the moment, right? And so that's what this is going to be like. And so anyways, I'm going to wrap this message up now. Chosen one, I think I pretty much hit all the spots I needed to hit, but the big word for today is accountability. And the Lord was giving that to me last night, is that you, chosen one, you've learned the art of accountability. You take accountability for yourself, and you would take accountability if needed. These people feel like you're not taking accountability for yourself, that you're basically doing in life what they do to you. But the thing is they don't understand that you don't need to take accountability because there's nothing you're accountable for. All the things that you've been weighed accountable for, you've already went through the crushing and taken accountability for it. These people feel like you owe them something, that, you know how I'm saying they're supposed to come and like bring an apology to you or some genuine conversation or something like that. They feel that you owe that to them. But that just proves how misaligned and how unaccountable they really are. Like, you may have once upon a time in the past thought 2 + 2 = 6 too, chosen one, okay? But you've learned through your crushing and your experience and your accountability process of your own that you've endured, you now know today that 2 + 2 = 4. So you've already had the accountability, the come to Jesus, all the things that these people need to go through, you've already went through. And God knows that. But they think that because you didn't go to them and say blah 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 blah, that then that's not real. But the thing of it was that they have it twisted. You weren't giving them crumbs and they were giving you a loaf. They may think that, but in reality, you were giving them a loaf and they were giving you crumbs. You see what I mean? You're the only one out of the lot of you all that sees things properly. Once upon a time, they thought 2 + 2 = 6, and so do you. But you have since learned how to maneuver properly, and so now you've learned through this process that 2 + 2 = 4. So this whole entire time, you've been the only person out of the two of y'all that gets it. They still think 2 + 2 = 6. They did then, and they still do today. So God looks at it as like, these people can be as confused as they want to be, right? And see you as skewed as they want. He knows that in the past you were both misaligned, but you've since become corrected. It's now them that is the off one, and they need to become corrected. They may not see it that way. They may see it the opposite. That's fine, but that's not the truth. Okay? And then once they go through the accountability process like you have, they endure what you have, they go through the buckling and the folding and the surrender like you have, and the crushing and the traumatic experience and all that stuff, then they're going to finally see 2 + 2 = 4 just like you do, and then you both will be on the same page. I'm seeing like a lot of these people are going to, they either already have, or they are currently, or they will in the future, have this big epiphany where in a lot of our cases, God is going to reveal it to them and show them the truth. Like the truth of like your Moses, like God's going to say to them, okay, the chosen one is Moses and you're Pharaoh. I know you thought that you were Moses and the chosen one was Pharaoh, but the chosen one is Moses and you are Pharaoh. Okay? The chosen one knows 2 + 2 = 4. You thought it equaled 6 up until this very minute. You're the one that's been doing the math wrong. Okay? And once they have this epiphany realization, they're going to be like, wow. And they're going to see themselves in a whole new way. And this is going to humble them, because they're going to see, wow, I've been so blind and wrong this whole time. I thought that the chosen one gave me crumbs and I gave them a loaf, but it was actually the other way around. And I went and told everybody that the chosen one gave me crumbs when really I gave them a loaf. They're going to wake up and smell the coffee and see how badly they are. This is going to be these politicians, these leaders, whatever, even if they're leading a church, leading an organization, a business, a boss, they're going to see, I'm the problem. I'm the corrupt one. I'm greedy. I'm selfish. I'm narcissistic. I'm terrible. I'm horrible. I shouldn't have done this. Why am I sitting here trying to make people poor? Why am I sitting here trying to, scapegoat people and point fingers at others and throw rocks and hide my hands? Why am I acting out of evil ways? Why do I have bad intentions? Why am I so cruel? You know what I'm saying? They're going to see this. And then once this happens, it's going to take them down a few notches. And then they're going to feel bad towards you, chosen one. And they're going to feel stupid to others, because they're going to see the truth. And the thing too is the other people are going to see the truth about them as well. Just like how people are now seeing the truth about Carney, that's going to continue. And so God is going to reveal throughout this spring season the truth about everything. The bad guys are going to look bad, and the good guys are going to look good. And the bad guys are going to see that they're bad guys and see that the good guys are good. God is going to set the record straight. This is why I said in yesterday's message, justice will prevail. Hallelujah. They are trying so hard, and have been, to try to prevent this epiphany from occurring with themselves, with you, with others. They don't want this because of the narcissistic, demonic chokehold that the devil has on them. Because like I said in yesterday's message, even Pharaoh has a Pharaoh. They're trying to entrap and slave drive people, but even themselves are entrapped and slave drive by the devil himself. The devil has Carney in a chokehold, so Carney's trying to put Canadians in chokeholds. You see what I'm saying? And so once people wake up and realize this, then everything's going to be different, okay? And we just have to wait for the timing of the Lord. But this is the message, is that these people want what they're going through to end. The only way that it can either end or speed up or subside or ease up is if they take accountability. They have to take accountability to God. They have to take accountability to themselves and say to themselves, self, you're the jerk. And then they have to take accountability to you, chosen one, and sincerely and genuinely say, it was me, I was a bad friend, or I was a bad lover or partner, or I was a bad family member, or I did say these things, I did do this, I shouldn't have said it, it was wrong. something to that effect. And then at that point, chosen one, if you are full circle, you are going to accept their apology. And whether you make amends or not is up to God and you, but you're going to accept. The waters will be smooth. They will extend that olive branch. If it's not sincere, you'll know, and you'll push them away, and they're back to the drawing board. If it is sincere, you will know, and you will accept it, and you'll say, I forgive you, or okay, thank you, or whatever it may be. And then whether you all come back together or not, at least there's peace on both sides. And then God will bring them peace. Okay? Then they will, the judgment and the wrath will subside or lift off or whatever it is, because that's what God wants. God wants them to be humbled. God wants them to take accountability for their own poor actions to themselves and tell themselves, I am not the victim. I'm a jerk, actually. I went and did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? And then also set the record straight with others, right? And make it known that they lied, or they shouldn't have said these things, or something. And if they don't go outright like that, they will defend you. So that they'll say, actually, I got thinking about it, and I think the chosen ones actually, they were a better friend than I said they were, or it's actually not all their fault like I tried to claim it was, or like something like that, okay? You know what I'm trying to say, chosen one. There has to be some form of accountability. This can look like in the political presidential system, things like that. Politician, that's what I'm trying to say. This can look like Carney saying, I'm going to produce more jobs. I'm going to deport some of the foreigners. I'm going to do ABC. I'm going to build more hospitals. I'm going to pay doctors more. I'm going to do things to try to fix the economy. Instead of trying to devise ways and schemes to ruin Canadian citizens and the people, and instead of pointing all the fingers at Trump and making him look bad because he wore a blue suit today and a red one tomorrow, I'm instead going to take accountability for my country, for my for my government, the shortcomings of the Liberal government, the shortcomings of Trudeau, my own personal shortcomings. I've been, I'm just going to say, I've been a piss poor leader, right? I've been a piss poor leader. And I'm going to take accountability for the things that I've done wrong. And either he's going to step down, or we'll have a fair election and Pierre will be voted in. Or, maybe the government will remain, but they'll actually start to pull their head out of their you-know-what and get it together. You know what I'm saying? That's taking accountability. And when that happens, that is when people will accept that strong, bold, mature, level-headed leadership. Okay? But as long as people continue to throw rocks and hide hands, either overtly or covertly create narcissistic evil schemes, plots, plans, and agendas, they continue to scapegoat, point fingers, try and make you look bad, try and silence you, try and shut you up, try and force you to do this and do that, and go along with their program and keep giving them all your loaves of bread while you receive crumbs in exchange, and then laugh and mock you when you're starving on the street. They're going to continue to be under wrath. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point that the Lord will keep adding on weight after weight after weight, crushing after crushing, until eventually they can't take anymore. Because, and so for some it could take days, for some it could take weeks, for some it could take months, and for some it could take years. It just depends, right? But the Lord is saying that they are currently under wrath and judgment, those closest to you, chosen one, on a small scale and on a wide scale, in the world and in your own personal world. They're currently under wrath and judgment. Some of them are in the thick of it. Others of them are just going into it. Others of them will start going into it in May, June, July, right? But either way, the goal here is accountability, is taking accountability for their poor actions to themselves, to God, to you, and to others. You know why? Because when they slighted you, chosen one, they did a disservice to themselves, to God, to you, and to others. And so they need to right those wrongs, right? And this reminds me, the Lord just keeps having me say, he's nudging me about a past message that I said, that this spouse has to honor you, okay? And that's something else too, is that if it's in the cards for you and this spouse to reconcile in the future, okay, in order for that to happen, this spouse needs to have this come to Jesus moment and accept accountability to themselves and to God and to you and to others. And then that's not enough. They also have to go and right the wrongs and honor you, to themselves, to God, and to others. And so this looks like going and setting the record straight with you, setting the record straight with God, setting the record straight with themselves, and setting the record straight with others. Telling you that they were a jerk, telling themselves that they were the jerk, not you, telling God that they were a jerk, they need forgiveness, and telling others that they were the jerk and not you, and that they shouldn't have done these things. Okay? That's what a full circle, right? It has to be full circle. If they only do 1 or 2 or 3 of these things, it's not enough. It has to be the full extent. Because the way God sees it is, you had no problem denying and betraying my child to yourself, telling yourself you're a victim when you're not, telling my child that you're a victim and they're a bad guy when they're not, telling others that you're a victim and they're a bad guy when they're not, and trying to tell me that you're a victim and they're a bad guy when they're not. So if you can go around and make a wrong in all 4 ways, you can turn around and make a right in all 4 ways. And that is what this spouse will have to do, okay? And they will have to take accountability. They will have to honor you. And they either are currently or will be going through judgment to ensure that this ends up happening, okay? They are going to get crushed just like they deserve to, and just like you once were a chosen one, okay? And this is going to produce the oil that is required of understanding. The oil of understanding. Hallelujah. And this will also be for your other Judases and Peters, you know, other ones around you, like family members and such, like I said, like those closest to you that were guilty of betraying or denying you. They'll have to do the same thing. And then for others of them that may have just been involved by proxy, they may just have to, you know, stop talking about you, or maybe defend you in a passing conversation, or at the very minimum go to God and make peace with God over it, right? And then God will make peace with them to you and you to them, because they made peace with God. But either way, like I said, there's a lot of people involved, chosen one. There's many different facets. But these bad guys that I talked about at the beginning of this message, they are currently going through judgment and wrath as we speak. They're either in it right now or they're going into it very soon. And the Lord is going to give them a load and test them. If they want to keep being stubborn, they want to keep being evil and narcissistic, then he's going to double down on the load just like they doubled down. And then he's going to test them. If they're going to keep being narcissistic and stubborn and arrogant, then he's going to triple down on the load, just like they tripled down. And he's going to continue to put the weight and pressure on them like they tried to do to you. They were trying to do this to make you buckle and fold. Now it's their turn to have stuff applied on their shoulders for efforts to make them buckle and fold. And then eventually they will buckle and fold, because the Lord will continue to do to them what needs to be done to make such things happen. And then once they do, that is when they will finally be surrendered and humbled. And they right then and there is where the understanding lays, right? And then they'll be able to see things for how it really is. And then from there comes the accountability. And this is going to go round and round and round and continue and continue. And they're going to have less credibility, less support, less empathy, less understanding, less of an audience, things like that, until they get the message, okay? And so when they are crying, uncle, uncle, and crying for mercy, that is when God is going to say, are you ready to take accountability? Because God wants these ones to right their wrongs with you, but it's not just that. He wants them to take accountability for their actions. Just like with you, chosen one, if you went and robbed a bank, God would want you to be accountable for your actions as well. You made a poor choice, you need to be held accountable, right? But because you've already been through this, you're not going to go do something like that, right? But then these people would go do something like that, and they don't want to take accountability, and on top of it, they want to try and blame you for it and say that somehow magically you're the one that did it, and scapegoat you, you see? And so then not only are they not taking responsibility and accountability for the things that they've done, on top of it, to add insult to injury, they're trying to throw it on you, right? And you're someone who God has already redeemed. And so you're not perfect by any means, but God holds you to the same standard. If the shoes were on the other feet and you were giving crumbs to these people and you were denying and betraying them and taking their loaves in exchange, God would want you to go through the same situation too. But you're not doing that. And if you did do that ever in the past, you're not doing that anymore. So the only party that is out of alignment is them, not you. And the days of trying to make you look like the bad guy and them look good are over. And they're seeing that. They've been over for a long time. So, at this point, they're fighting the inevitable. You know what I mean? And so just continue to, be patient and be humble, chosen one. Continue to monitor yourself. Watch yourself, take accountability for yourself and only yourself, right? It was these people being so focused on you and not on themselves that got a lot of them in trouble in the first place. So continue to focus on yourself and not them, right? Because that's what happens is when we start to look on our neighbor's page is when we start to fail on our own, right? And so this is what's to come here starting April throughout this spring season, chosen one, and even rolling into the summer. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because as these adversaries go through this accountability process and this crushing, they're not going to like it. And they're going to try and, at least in the beginning, try and fight back and things like that. And the other thing too is not everyone's on the same timeline. So not everyone's going to go through this process at the same time as everybody else. So while someone's almost done, someone's just beginning. So this can look like a little bit of backlash in certain areas because they're not liking that they're, being put in a chokehold. Like they're basically going through what they put you through. They don't like losing control. They don't like having to surrender and be humbled and be held accountable and things like that and come face to face with themselves. They don't like it. But it was all well and good when you were going through it, right? It was all fun and games. So now it's their turn, okay? And so that's what's been unfolding lately, chosen one. That's what's to come is this accountability process. God is saying that they are going through wrath and they don't like it. Well, start learning some accountability then. Others of them, they feel like they're going to have to go through this process and they're trying to derail it or detour it or delay it, and it's not going to work. And even if they take accountability, it may not complete it either. That's just step one, right? But throughout that process, they will end up becoming humbled. They will end up taking accountability. They will end up understanding things about themselves, yourself, and others a little more. And, they're not going to have the easy road in front of them moving forward that they might have had in the past. Okay, that's the message for today, chosen ones. If the Lord leads me to return with anything else on this, I will, okay? And as always, those who have ears to hear will hear. You will know if this message is for you, okay? And on that note, I hope this message finds you well. Take care, and God bless.